Hello, 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 everybody. This is Avi Abelo, sitting in the eternal and undivided capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem, in our eternal and ancestral homeland. Thank you so much for joining today. We're going to be dealing with a couple of issues. If I will be able to see comments or questions live, then I will try to answer. Not always is that possible, but I'm trying something new here. So enjoy. Hope this goes well. First of all, anyone who wants to continue to see the work that we do, the Pulse of Israel, with our videos, and if you're able to support, even a little support, please just go to pulseofisrael.com/donate and give whatever you can, tax-deductible donation, to be able to support the work that we are doing in getting the truth out there to you about Israel and the Jewish people. All right, let's get into this. I'm going to start with one issue that's been on the top of my mind over the past few days, dealing with current events issues, and then I asked earlier for people to write in issues they would be interested in hearing about. So I will deal with those, and if I don't give you a shout out, then I will try to tag you later on when I make this post, and it is taggable. All right? In the meantime, Shalom Akiva, Shalom AJ, awesome having you on, and Claudius, thank you. All right, let's go into it, folks. Here we go. Issue number one, the anti-Israel, anti-Jewish agenda. Now, I wish I could tell you that this is coming from non-Jews, from anti-Semites, right? No. This is coming from Jewish organizations. Organizations that call themselves Jewish, organizations that call themselves pro-Israel, yet they are anything but. These are organizations who are all about weakening Israel and weakening the Jewish character of the state of Israel. Now, this is very, very important. I'm going to be bringing up two current events issues dealing with this right now, but this is why those of you in America must vote for one of the right parties in the World Zionist Congress. If you have not registered to vote yet, vote, because these anti-Israel, anti-Jewish organizations are running in order to have a say in policy regarding Israel and the Jewish world and the allocation of $4 billion. And it is absurd that people who have an anti-Jewish, anti-Israel agenda, just because they call themselves Jewish, should be allowed to have a say on those matters. So please, folks, get everyone you know to vote. ZionistElection.org. Vote for one of the right parties to strengthen Israel and strengthen the Jewish character of the state of Israel. All right, what are the two issues we're going to be dealing with today, right now? Their horrendous anti-Jewish agenda here in Israel. Well, first, let's talk about the army. Now, the Army's fine, folks. I served in the Army. I still serve in the reserve duty in the Army. The Army is a Jewish army, right? We're the Jewish state of Israel, and we have a Jewish army. David Ben-Gurion, when he set out and established the state of Israel and the Israeli army, he specifically wrote language saying it is the Jewish army after thousands of years of the Jewish people not having an army. Now, we have plenty of non-Jews who are Israeli citizens who also serve. And why do they serve? Because they know how blessed they are to live in a country that protects them and gives them freedoms and equality. So they are proud to serve in the Jewish army in the state of Israel. And now we have an organization called, this isn't new, it's called the Forum Chiloni. Chiloni means secular. It's the Secular Forum. They have an agenda to de-Judaize Israel. Right? That's their agenda, to de-Judaize Israel, to take all Jewish aspects of the state of Israel out of Israel. These are people who don't want to be Jewish, or they don't want Israel to be Jewish. They just want to be Israelis. They don't want anything to do with the Jewish aspect of their identity. These are people who disregard the fact that they have no reason to be here except for the fact that they are Jewish. They have no reason to want to defend the Jewish state of Israel except for the fact that they are Jewish. They could be religious, they could be non-religious, that's fine. but you cannot de-Judaize the state of Israel. So what's their latest agenda item to hurt Israel, to hurt the Jewish character of the state of Israel? They're running a campaign now against the fact that the Israeli army has strict rules in the kitchens to ensure that all food cooked in all kitchens, in army kitchens, are kosher. Right? It's a Jewish army. There are plenty of Jewish soldiers who keep Jewish dietary law according to Jewish practice of thousands of years. And it's David Ben-Gurion again, the founder of the State of Israel, who enshrined that the Jewish army, Tzahal, the IDF, would ensure that all foods cooked in kitchens, on army kitchens, would be kosher. And here they are running a public campaign against the fact that the Jewish army's kitchens are kosher and that it has rules in order to ensure that all soldiers can eat the food. Because here's the thing, folks. A non-religious soldier or a non-Jewish soldier can eat non-Jewish food, right? They allow themselves to eat non-Jewish food. But in order for a religious soldier to eat out of a kitchen in an army, on an army base, the food has to be kosher, which means therefore the food has to be kosher for everybody. Now, this doesn't take away the ability of everyone to eat, because everyone is able to eat kosher food, right? It just allows everyone to be able to eat. And yes, Jewish dietary laws are strict. And it's strict how food is prepared, how the kitchens have to run. That's why there has to be someone in a kitchen to see that everything's run properly. We are very, very strict about Jewish dietary law. And therefore, the kitchens in the army have strict rules as well, and they are army rules, even though they are Jewish rules, in order to allow for all soldiers to be able to eat together out of army kitchens, whether they're on bases on land or even on ships. Then the standard has to be kept that it's kosher, so all soldiers can serve. There are a lot of religious soldiers, and regardless, one religious soldier on a base, if all of a sudden soldiers are just doing whatever they want in the kitchen, that one religious soldier won't be able to eat. So in order to allow all soldiers to eat, because this is a Jewish army, therefore, it is the army rules to uphold the rules of the Jewish dietary law. That's the way it is. And here you have this secular forum that is bashing the army, saying how horrible it is. It's not a Jewish army, right? It's the army of the State of Israel, which also has non-Jews living in it and non-Jews serving in the army. Now, those points are true. There are non-Jews who live in Israel, and there are non-Jews who serve in the Israeli army. But they're saying it's not a Jewish army. Folks, they're bashing the Israeli army, saying that we're a Jewish army, and it's horrible how if a soldier does something wrong in a kitchen, if he brings in food from outside, then he could be punished. Well, yeah, because the second you bring in food from the outside, then the kitchen is not necessarily on going according to Jewish dietary law, and therefore the only soldiers who will be able to eat on that base are the ones who do not keep Jewish dietary law. But because we are a Jewish army, allowing all Jews to be able to serve and therefore eat the food in the army, so we need the Jewish dietary laws to be upkept so that we all can eat. The religious Jews, the non-religious Jews, and the non-Jews. Everyone can eat according to Jewish dietary law, and that's why those laws are in place. Now, this forum Chiloni, this secular forum, is funded by the New Israel Fund. The New Israel Fund wants to get a say on the matters of the World Zionist Congress. They're on one of the slates, a horrible slate. This is one of the things they support. De-Judaizing the Israeli army, making it hard for religious soldiers to be able to serve because they want the army, they're trying to force the army to change its rules, right? They're trying to use this pressure, making it sound as if how non-religious or non-Jewish soldiers are oppressed because they could be punished if they go against the Jewish dietary laws regarding the kitchen. They're trying to use public pressure to have the army change its rules to then make it hard for religious soldiers to be able to serve and de-Judaize the army. This is New Israel Fund. This is one of the organizations on one of the slates in the World Zionist Congress trying to de-Judaize the Israeli army and neuter the Jewish aspect, the Jewish character of the state of Israel, and here the Israeli army. So this secular forum, this Forum Chiloni, which gets funding from the New Israel Fund and partners on programs of the New Israel Fund, is proof that this New Israel Fund is out to weaken the Jewish character of the state of Israel. Here they're going public saying that the Jewish army of the Jewish state of Israel is not a Jewish army. Of course it's a Jewish army, and we open our arms wide to all non-Jews to serve with us, because they know how blessed they are to live in the Jewish state of Israel. And you want to know why we're such a great state for the non-Jews that live with us? Because we are a Jewish state with a Jewish army. So that's one issue of this horrendous New Israel Fund. And by the way, anyone who thinks otherwise, the New Israel Fund, They make it seem like they're so good. They're just a new fund, right? The New Israel Fund, new fund. No, folks, they say it right in our faces. They want a new Israel. It's the New Israel, fund. They're trying to create a new Israel, an Israel that is weak in Jewish character, an Israel that is weak with regards to security-wise and standing up to its enemies. That's what this New Israel Fund is about. And they're on one of the lists in the slate, one of the slates for the World Zionist Congress, and they want a voice to be able to so that they're able to decide programming for the Jewish world and allocating $4 billion in Israel and around the world. We can't let that happen. Everyone needs to sign up for the World Zionist Congress elections on ZionistElections.org and vote for one of the right parties that supports a strong Israel and standing up for the Jewish character of the state of Israel. That's how important that is. That's issue number one. Now issue number two, which also highlights the utter hypocrisy of this New Israel Fund and these secular left-wing organizations who they talk in name of equality. Anyone familiar with with Israeli society, with Jewish society in Israel, knows that one sector of Israeli society is the ultra-Orthodox sector. Now, I'm a religious Orthodox Jew, and the ultra-Orthodox are, in a sense, more Orthodox than me, right? Than me per se. Okay, what's the deal with the ultra-Orthodox? Well, we're dealing with one issue. They are very, very strict of modesty between men and women, right? There is a very big aspect of Judaism, understanding the powers of the man versus the powers of the woman. Each one has his role in this world in Judaism, and we have different roles to play. But we both have power, and we both are an essential part in our Jewish life and in family life. All right, but because the ultra-Orthodox are extremely strict regarding men-women issues, regarding modesty issues, they believe in full separation. Okay, so there are hardly places where men and women in the ultra-Orthodox world come together. Everything is separate. Okay, now we come to a different issue. The other issue is that for many years, the ultra-Orthodox sector hasn't as much taken part in the workforce, even though that's been changing over the years. More and more ultra-Orthodox are taking part in the workforce, but because they don't get the same level of studies, hardly any of them go to colleges, universities, for advanced degrees to be able to get advanced educations and advanced jobs, and includes the women. So there's been a revolution over the past few years where women's colleges have opened up for ultra-Orthodox, right? Special colleges for ultra-Orthodox women where they are able to learn for advanced degrees and be able to go to the workforce. Hey, it's a win-win, right? Anyone who's been complaining about the ultra-Orthodox not taking place in the workforce and who complain about women not being equal in the ultra-Orthodox society, well, here you go. You have college programs to give advanced degrees to ultra-Orthodox women. So they're getting advanced degrees and then they're going into the workforce. Wonderful, right? The left should be ecstatic. But no, not only are the left not ecstatic, the anti-Jewish left, again funded by New Israel Fund, all these different women's organizations of equality of women, they are out to destroy these college programs for ultra-Orthodox women. How? In the name of equality, folks. Listen to this. Because these ultra-Orthodox women colleges are only for women, right? Because the ultra-Orthodox community is strict about modesty, so separate programs for men and women. They don't study together. So these are separate colleges for women. Now, it's not just that the rabbis say this. The women are only comfortable going to separate colleges. The fact that it's for women. They don't want to go to mixed colleges. They haven't gone to advanced colleges because they've all been mixed. And these are the first colleges they can go to. They want to go to colleges special for women where all the students are women. That's what they want to do. Okay? And I do believe some teachers are men. It's not that there are no male teachers, but the student body is all women. That is what they're culturally comfortable with, their religious cultural norm. And in the name of equality, all these left-wing women's organizations, again, some of them, if not all of them, funded by the New Israel Fund, trying to neuter and destroy the Jewish character of the State of Israel, they've gone to the High Court of Justice in Israel, basically saying that these all only women programs are against the law because they are not equal, because they are segregated, right? And these women's programs have been stopped in their tracks. I don't know exactly at what stage, but making it hard because there are now legal cases about changing them or stopping them because they are not mixed, men and women. Now, do you hear the absurdity and the hypocrisy of this? All of all, would you see any left-wing organization going to a High Court of Justice in Israel or even North America against a Muslim all-women program? Have you heard of such a thing? No, the left are in bed with Islam, and they respect the Islamic norms, and we have to respect their religious norms, which are different than the Western world. So for Muslims to have an all-women's program, that's fine. No left-wing organizations are going to go to court to stop Muslim all-women's programs. But all of a sudden, these enlightened moral idiots on the left, in the name of equality, will call out that, this religious norm in Judaism that the ultra-Orthodox stand by, of having men and women separate for modesty reasons, that's not okay. And by doing that, they are hurting women. They say they're for women, and they're hurting women. Why? Because they don't care about the women when they're religious. They only care because they have their leftist, anti-Jewish agenda. Again, funded by the New Israel Fund, which is running in this World Zionist Congress to have more of a say over what happens in the Jewish world. So therefore, we can't allow that list to have power, and we have to everyone register and vote to make sure one of the right lists get enough power to shut down the left and this New Israel Fund oriented list. But can you imagine? It's horrendous. They are hurting women. They say they talk in the name of equality and the name of women's rights, and here they are stopping these ultra-Orthodox women who want to go to the workforce, who want to go to a college program and study. They are stopping these programs and stopping these women from being able to do that. So here we go, once again, the hypocrisy of the left. On the one hand, instead of standing up for women, they are hurting the ultra-Orthodox women. And the second hand, and you see their hypocrisy because they would never do this against Islam or Muslim programs for all women only. But yet they do it for Jewish programs, because it's not about helping women, it's about neutering the Jewish character of the State of Israel. And here, agree or disagree, ultra-Orthodox programs believe in segregation for modesty reasons. That is their cultural norm, and that's what the women want as well. A woman wants to go to another program, she can if she wants to, and she has the ability to, but most of these women don't. They're used to their culture of being together with women only, except in the circumstances where it is permitted, and they want all women's programs. And here you have this enlightened moral left that they call themselves Jewish, and they're really out to destroy the Jewish character of the state of Israel and hurt these ultra-Orthodox women. So those are the two issues dealing with the anti-Jewish, anti-Israel agenda of these left-wing organizations who they call themselves Jewish and pro-Israel, but they're really out to destroy the Jewish character of the state of Israel and weaken Israel. And it is critical we all get out and vote, register and vote. www.zionistelection.org. Vote for one of the right lists that is about strengthening Israel and strengthening the Jewish character of the state and stopping these anti-Israel, anti-Jewish organizations from getting a voice. All right. Let's go on to the next issue. Trump deal of the century. Trump deal of the century. Oh, Claudius asked a good question dealing with the kosher issue of the soldiers. Can't they have food for both? So, Claudius, here's the thing. Everyone can eat kosher food. Kosher food, most kosher food is the same as the other food. It just has to be prepared in a special way, and there's certain rules of how the kitchen is run. That's it. It's regular food. Except for non-kosher foods like seafood, like certain animals. But mostly all food can be kosher. It's just how it is prepared in the kitchen. So everybody can eat kosher food, and kosher food can be delicious. And when you go to the army, well, I wouldn't necessarily talk about army food as delicious, but everyone can eat that food. So again, it is a rule that allows everyone to be able to eat the food prepared in the kitchens of the army, and allowing anyone to do whatever they want, or allowing them to bring in their own private food from home onto the bases and the kitchens ends up causing problems. And the army, it's not the rabbis, it's the army that has the rules to stop those problems from even being created. So therefore, it's been 70 years that these rules have been in the army, but the anti-Israel, anti-Jewish agenda, just like the leftist agenda across the world, is growing and becoming more provocative. So now all of a sudden they're coming out of their holes and trying to make this whole balagan, this mess here in Israel and with the army. Okay, good question. Next issue, Trump deal of the century. What is going on? Wow. All right. So this is what's been going on, and this is where things stand right now. Basically, from President Trump's announcement, where he said basically that immediately the United States of America would recognize Israel's new map, right? That the United States of America says all of the Jordan Valley and all Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria would be able to be have the application of Israeli law and have Israeli sovereignty applied to them immediately. And then U.S. Ambassador Friedman also said that publicly. And then Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said, okay, and next week we're going to have a vote on the application of sovereignty in Judea and Samaria and the Jordan Valley. Well, things changed, and there must have been a miscommunication somewhere, because now basically the U.S. administration is saying that this will take time and nothing's going to be done before the elections in Israel. And it's basically upset many people because we were led to believe, and by the U.S. administration's own words, that we could be able to apply sovereignty immediately. So it's caused a bit of a confusion and deflation of excitement, because we here in the Middle East are very well experienced to know that things change. Life is dynamic, and the Middle East is extremely dynamic. And the more time you give to something to just fester, the more problems arise, because the powers out there against us are tremendous. Forget about the terrorists we deal with in Judea and Samaria and Gaza. Forget about the anti-Israel forces in the Arab-Muslim world. Even with the unbelievable change that the U.S. administration has done with having even some Arab-Muslim countries at the announcement in Washington, D.C., announcing this deal where Israel would be allowed to apply sovereignty in areas of Judea and Samaria. Even with all that, we have anti-Israel powers in the European Union, European countries, anti-Israel powers in North America, and we here are very learned that if you don't do something immediately, then the percentage of that would potentially that not happening are great for good things. Bad things happen immediately. Like, they implement bad things all the time immediately. Good things, the more you wait, the more potential it won't happen, especially with the Israeli elections coming up, not knowing who's going to win. And if Benny Gantz wins, he is a leftist. He is a leftist who was a horrible chief of staff who goes around speaking how proud he was that he sacrificed Golani soldiers in not attacking a terrorist because maybe innocent human shields would have been killed. That's not a leader. He's not a military leader. He's not a leader at all. And if he becomes prime minister with his blue and white party, then sovereignty is never going to be applied in Judea and Samaria and the Jordan Valley. So we're all worried now that because the Trump administration changed its thinking, that we might never see the application of sovereignty. So people are asking, when's it going to happen? Right now, it's only going to happen if enough people vote for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and right-wing parties to be able to make the next coalition. If once again Benny Gantz has enough votes and the left-wing parties have enough votes to either make a government or not allow Benjamin Netanyahu to make a government, sovereignty will not be applied. If you ask me what I would hope would happen, this whole sovereignty issue of the Trump deal of the century puts the Benny Gantz's blue and white party in a tough spot. It puts them in a tough spot because most of their party are left-wing. They're left-wing who they prefer destroying Jewish communities and expelling Jews to create a state of Palestine that would be a terror state, as opposed to looking out for Israel's best interest, which is to apply sovereignty, listen to the conditions that the very realistic and logical conditions that the Trump administration put forward for the Palestinian Authority. It must demilitarize Gaza. It must take all the guns away from Hamas. It must recognize Israel as a Jewish state. It must stop incitement. Right? All these are logical conditions that any Israeli would want to be implemented before negotiations begin. Yet no U.S. administration, no world power involved in the peace process ever put forward those conditions. And here Israel is always dealing with a terror entity, the Palestinian Authority, Islamic jihadists, Hamas, that the world allows them to continue their terror, and then always telling Israel, you have to give away your land. You have to give away prisoners. You have to give things to them, to terrorists who incite to kill us and support terrorists and give money to terrorists. So finally, you have a Trump administration that says, no. They have to stop their terror and incitement to terror and support of terror and financing of terror and demilitarize Gaza. And only then are there negotiations, and then they can maybe have a state of Palestine. If you ask me, that's never going to happen. But here you have leftists who they don't care about those conditions. The conditions make total sense. Totally logical and rational for anyone who truly wants peace. And so here they're willing to allow to all those conditions to go by the wayside, not apply sovereignty, and just go into negotiations again with murderers and terrorists. So it is essential that we vote for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party and the Yamina party in order that they get as much votes as possible to have 61 seats to be able to make a coalition and then apply sovereignty according to Trump's deal of the century. That will strengthen Israel dramatically. Am I scared about the fact that the Trump deal of the century includes the precept that a state of Palestine can come into existence? I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy about that at all. But again, all the conditions basically ensure that that's never going to happen, because after 100 years of killing Jews, 100 years, right? This is since the beginning of the 20th century, folks. They were killing us even before we had a state. They were murdering Jews. They were telling everyone, oh, the Jews are going to destroy Al-Aqsa, let's go murder them. And they were murdering us in Jaffa and in Hebron and in Tiberias and Jerusalem, right? This is back in the 1920s, folks. So for 100 years, they've been killing us. Nothing to do with settlements, nothing to do with occupation, nothing to do with the state of Israel. So they're about destroying Israel. They're not going to demilitarize. They're not going to stop supporting terrorists. They're not going to stop incitement. So negotiations are never going to begin. But if Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu does not win the elections and a leftist government comes into power, then forget about sovereignty and forget about those conditions, and then we're going to have the delusional, destructive left do horrible things once again like they've always done, and always giving away our land and making us weaker and being able to stand up to our enemies. So that's the latest on the Trump deal of the century and when we will be applying sovereignty in Judea and Samaria. So that's for that issue. Number 3, update on Israel's upcoming election. Our third in 1 year. What is going on? So again, I don't know whether to believe the polls or not, but basically the polls are saying that we're going to be having another deadlock, which means we won't be able to make a government again. But here's the thing that's really, really sad. The reason we're in a deadlock is because the anti-Bibi left have succeeded in brainwashing much of the Israeli public that all these horrible things about Bibi are true, right? Where there's smoke, there's fire. That's what people say. Oh, he must be corrupt. And even if the cases against him aren't 100%, well, he's still corrupt. Folks, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been the best prime minister Israel has ever had, who's helped Israel diplomatically, geopolitically, defensively, economically. I have plenty of things I disagree with him, but he's been the best prime minister ever, and they've been after him since he became prime minister in 1996. Go back into the archives, folks. You had the delusional, destructive left trying to get rid of him back in 1996, the minute after he was elected, trying to bring up all these fake legal cases against him. This has been a witch hunt against him. They've spent billions of dollars of our taxpayer money in a witch hunt to try to bring down Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. How can you explain this? They have a Teak 1000, they have a Case 1000, a Case 2000, a Case 3000. Like, hello, don't you see there is a agenda there? They keep on searching for more and more cases. They're not like, oh, we have a case, let's get him. No, oh, well, this case isn't working, let's start investigating another case. Oh, this case isn't good enough, let's start investigating. It's a witch hunt, folks. It's a witch hunt against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The guy's no saint. The guy has issues. I don't agree with everything, but he has been the best prime minister, and even though I have my own issues with him and wished he did some things differently and hasn't dealt with Gaza and Hamas as well as I want to, I understand there's a method to his madness, even in dealing with things or not dealing with things as I agree, but he has been the best prime minister. He knows how to deal with the world. Every world leader wants to meet him. They want to talk to him. They want Israel to work with him. Geopolitically, he has been the strongest leader we have ever had, and now all of a sudden you want to bring in Benny Gantz, a fool who can't even talk, and who was a failure as a chief of staff, who says publicly that he supports today he still stands by his decision to sacrifice Israeli IDF soldiers, not to kill terrorists who are killing Israelis because maybe innocent human shields would be killed. That is not leadership. He is not a leader. He cannot be prime minister. And yet you have all these people who are right-wingers who have been convinced not to vote for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu because the left has succeeded in brainwashing the Israeli public with how horrible Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is because of all these legal cases against him. So unfortunately, you can look to America and see how Trump is succeeding to get out of his issues. Well, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is not Trump. Israel is not the United States of America. There are obviously differences there. There are similarities between the witch hunt against President Trump and the witch hunt against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, but they are different in how to deal with them, and the system is different. And the Israeli public is not as, I don't know what the word is, but they're much of Bibi's own camp and right-wingers have been brainwashed to think that he shouldn't be prime minister. His time is up. Not to say, he does things that he has done or hasn't done things that have upset many people who say, I don't want to vote for him again. But again, this public witch hunt against him, where the whole legal system is against him and the whole mainstream media is against him, has made it very, very hard. And that's why 2 elections have gone by, and plenty of people who essentially are right-wing voters have been duped to voting for blue and white because they are hiding their true identity as a left-wing party by having some right-wingers there. So they're trying to prove that they're a right-wing party, and some right-wingers are voting for it. And we have to use every ounce of power we have, of persuasion we have to talk to our friends and family in Israel. Do not vote blue and white. Tell them it's not a center party, it's a left party. It has Yael German, who believes in destroying Israeli communities in Judea and Samaria and expelling Israeli Jews. She just said this a few weeks ago, calling for another hitnatkut. Yair Lapid, also, he's the one who said that he was proud that we destroyed all of the Jewish communities in Gaza Strip because it educates the religious public. Okay, that's the type of people we're dealing with, and people think that Yair Lapid is going to look after religious interests, that he cares about the religious public. He said this is about getting it to the religious public. That's why he wanted Gaza to be destroyed, because it was getting it at the national religious. He didn't care about Israel. It was hitting the national religious public. That's Yair Lapid. And then you have Benny Gantz, who's a failed leader and a failed chief of staff. So please use power of persuasion with anyone you know who's thinking of voting blue and white, and tell them vote either Likud or Yamina. Those are the two chances we have of continuing a strong Jewish government, and hopefully the application of sovereignty, and hopefully taking care of the Gaza situation, which I'll get to in a minute. All right, so that's the elections. So dealing with Gaza, someone, I think it was Yocheved Golani, asked me, she was asking, why isn't Israel taking care of Gaza? Anyone following the news, every day there are bombs being thrown over or rockets being shot from Gaza into Israel. Now their latest thing is balloons and condom balloons, right? That's what they're doing. Sending over balloons with bombs, and bombs that look like presents that they land in fields and blow up, and they want them to look like presents or toys for children to pick up and kill Israeli children by picking up these toys. That's what they're doing every single day. Every day, more and more bombs coming over the Gaza Strip into Israel, and rockets. And the question is, why isn't Israel dealing with it? Why can't we just stop it? And I wish Israel would have stopped it already too. And believe it or not, the way to stop it there is only one solution for Gaza, and I've been talking about this for years. Israel must liberate Gaza from Hamas and the Palestinian Arab terrorists. That's it. Israel must go back in, take control, set up Israeli communities, and for those Arab Muslims in Gaza who want to live peacefully with us, let them live peacefully with us. Those who support terror, let them sit in jail or run away. They not be allowed to live there. That is the only solution. So we will have peace with the Arabs in Gaza when Israel is back, when Gush Katif is back, when we're resettled our Jewish communities in the Gaza Strip, therefore making it into a Singapore for all the Arab Muslims who agree to live peacefully with us there. And believe it or not, the army right now, from what I understand, is working on a plan to liberate Gaza, to do exactly that, or something close to that. But it's only recently working on that plan. Every other... And basically, the Prime Minister hasn't done anything yet because the army hasn't been prepared to do something like that, and anything else is just a Band-Aid effect. Because anytime we just shoot the terrorists or shoot the rocket launchers, well, then the world forces us to have a ceasefire. The world pours in millions and billions of dollars to rebuild Gaza. Then it's not used to give money to help the poor Gazans. It's used to build more terror tunnels and to bring in more rockets and to build more rockets and to give money to more terrorists. So all the things up until now were just Band-Aid effects, and the only solution is for us to go in and liberate Gaza, and the army is not ready to do that yet. I have heard rumors that the army is planning a big operation. I don't know if that's totally to liberate Gaza. I don't know if it's going to take place before the elections. I certainly do hope it takes place before the elections. And then if you ask me why hasn't Israel done that yet, well, two reasons. First of all, you have to understand Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is a strategic man in his leadership. And there are plenty of issues I wish he would have dealt with, but he's been strategic in how he's dealt with issues. Iran has been the number one issue for him. The number one issue. And he's allowed other issues to go untouched or not dealt with appropriately in order to ensure that Iran is being taken care of, not just by Israel, but with the partnership of world powers, or at least the United States of America. That has been his number one issue since he came to power back in 1996, believe it or not. So he looks at Judea and Samaria, he looks at Gaza as nuisance issues, not existential issues. And therefore, he's allowed them to fester on a low flame because he doesn't want to take away from having the world recognition or acceptance to taking care about Israel's true existential problem, which is Iran and Iran's growth around the whole Middle East, Syria, Lebanon, etc. He wants to ensure that we have permission to be able to take out Iranian proxy forces in Syria and in Lebanon and anywhere else necessary, and not be shut down by the world for doing an operation in Gaza that then stops our ability to take care of Iran. So even though Israelis are sick of Gaza and the people down south are sick of these bombs and now these balloon bombs and the rockets that come down constantly every single day, unfortunately, because it's just a nuisance that can injure and kill, but on the strategic level versus Iran, not an existential threat like Iran, Gaza hasn't been taken care of yet. I do hope it will be taken care of soon. Definitely, you have to understand, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been involved with this Trump deal of the century for 3 years. So he might not have known all the details, but he's been involved in it. And I'm sure with it being rolled out and with him hopefully being re-elected and having a right-wing government, we will finally be able to take care of Gaza. Because part of the Trump deal of the century, one of the preconditions to the deal of the century is the demilitarization of Hamas and of Gaza. So, if the time comes, I don't know how much time the United States is going to give to this, but if the time comes, a month, 2 months, 3 months, and the Palestinian Authority still says no to all the conditions and is not demilitarizing Gaza, and Gaza continues to shoot rockets, well, the day's going to come, I hope sooner than later, where the U.S. administration is going to say, okay, Israel, go do what you got to do in Gaza. And we will have the support to do what we have to do and liberate Gaza and destroy the whole terror infrastructure in Gaza once and for all. So, it's about timing. I wish it could be today. I wish it would have been years ago, but it's about timing and waiting for the stars to be aligned. And that's why Israel still hasn't taken it out yet, but I do know a plan is being formulated as we speak by the new chief of staff. He is the first chief of staff Israel's had in decades who talks about winning, that the army is here to win and defend Israel. Unfortunately, the left has overtaken many within the army. You have to understand the New Israel Fund, this anti-Israel, anti-Jewish agenda organization trying to weaken Israel, has been funding programs for IDF soldiers, high-ranking soldiers, to be educated for high degrees, to be basically brainwashed by leftist agendas, that you have to be a moral army and you can't take out civilians even though they're being used as human shields. And it's not about winning, it's about just it's just about maintaining the conflict, and the state of Palestine has to come into existence. This is the education many of Israel's chief of staff have been brainwashed in, thanks to educational programs that they're sent to for free by New Israel Fund-oriented or funded organizations. Okay? So the left has infiltrated the IDF, infiltrated the upper echelons of the IDF. Not all of them, not all high officers. Thank God, Aviv Kochavi, the current chief of staff, he finally is talking about victory, that an army is here to be victorious over an enemy. That's how you defend, by defeating the enemy. He's the first chief of staff we have in years, in decades, talking like this. And that's why he is the one finally working on a plan to liberate Gaza and end the terror regime in Gaza. The powers, the anti-Israel, anti-Jewish powers out there, even within the Jewish world, are tremendous with a lot of money, and they've been working on doing a lot of horrible things to us. So that's the issue of Gaza. And finally, I'm actually just going to bring up an issue that I will hopefully talk about in the future, but Sharni Cohen raised this, the Benny Gantz corruption of the fifth dimension. He ran I don't have all the details. I'm going to have to do all the research on this to bring you all the details, but basically Benny Gantz was the chairman of a high-tech company called the Fifth Dimension, and issues of corruption have arisen from it. But of course the media isn't talking about it because they want Bibi to be defeated, so they can't say anything bad about Benny Gantz. Right here Benny Gantz is talking about the rule of law, and Bibi can't be prime minister because he's not morally and ethically up to standard because of all these legal cases against him. Well, he himself is involved in a potential corruption case dealing with the high-tech company that he was chairman of, so he's not really the person to be talking about moral and ethical, and you're talking about millions, if not billions of dollars, I don't remember that, of fraud. or investor fraud or whatever it is. I'm going to have to come up with all the details, but that is an issue that should be dealt with by the media. But again, because the media is an anti-Bibi witch hunt, and they just want him to be thrown away, so they don't talk about potentially bad things about Benny Gantz. And there are others in the Blue and White Party also that deal with corruption issues. But again, they'll be silent about those things because all's fair in love and war in taking down Bibi Netanyahu and the right. So that is it for today's issues. Let's see. Claudius, I hope they are working hard on that plan and quickly. Me too, Claudius. You're referring to the IDF plan to liberate Gaza from all the terror there and for Israel to reclaim our land and resettle there, where it will be a safer place for us and for those Arab Muslims who want to live peacefully with us. Yaakov Goldsmith got the A1 Aliyah July 2020. Amazing, Yaakov. That is amazing. The land of Israel is the ancestral homeland of the Jewish people. For 2,000 years, Jews have dreamt of returning. Every prayer, every holiday, every Passover, we dream of returning to the land of Israel. We pray to return to the land of Israel. So, Yaakov, you're living the dream, man. You're going to come back home. And I hope each and every other Jew listening to this is inspired to start making your plans. I don't want you running away from anti-Semitism. I want you coming home and being part of the most miraculous thing in modern history, the return of the Jewish people to their ancestral homeland and being a light into the nations with what we're doing here in our ancestral homeland. So all you Jews out there, wherever you are, come home. Start making the plans. All right? Make it a 2-year plan. Make it a 5-year plan. Make it a 10-year plan. Start talking about it with your friends, with your spouses, with your children, and making it a reality. All right, folks. That's it for today's Pulse of Israel Daily program. Thanks for watching. And again, if you enjoy the work I do with the video work, please, whatever you can give, you can support our work at www.pulseofisrael.com/donate. And whatever you're able to give, and if you're able to give a monthly donation, that's even great to help us get our work out there. So thanks, everyone. Signing off from the eternal and undivided capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem, in our eternal and ancestral homeland. Shalom.